My name is Michael Barglow. I helped to start Christiania in 1971. I've been back a few times. I have Christiania pretty deep in my heart. I came here actually before Christiania, walked around Christiania with a Danish friend. I was living in Christianshavn, and he said, "Let me show you this place." So we came out and walked into the army base during the invasion and found an amazing kitchen with big pots and big pans and a beautiful dining hall that the army had left for us. I saw this place and I sent a postcard to my friends in München. I said, "Come on up, I think we've got a place to land." We landed in the Felleskirchen, and it was amazing to have that place to feed people during the first winter. Anyone from Christiania who was working in Christiania came in and we fed them, and then we used donations to get food for the next day. So it was a really amazingly inspirational time of my life. So I'm back in Christiania. I've been talking to a whole bunch of people whom I know from back then, and I've met more recently because I made a little movie about Christiania, society in the big city, from way back in the day, because we didn't make movies then. We made slideshows and audio tapes. So I put together a little movie. I came back 3 years ago, showed it. So I feel like I have some roots here. Enough about me. I, with some other people, came up with some questions about Christiania. And I'm personally hoping that this could maybe jumpstart a discussion about Christiania's future. Where to now, Christiania? That's the important question I want to raise. So I thought I'd start by talking about some of the principles that a lot of us agreed on back in the day, 1971, 47 years ago. One of them was that we wanted to have houses for people who didn't have housing. And there were places where people had moved in, like Sterkassen and Sofiagården, and the police came and threw them out. These were abandoned buildings, but and then we had Christiania that opened up, and those people without houses could come into Christiania. So I'd say that was a very fundamental principle, that people should have housing. And also, going along with that, there was a sense that no one should own Christiania. It should be a free state. And we didn't like it when people came around wanting to own a place by themselves. And I think that happened once. But people, you know, this is a free state. We don't want private ownership of homes. So that was one thing that we agree on. And my feeling is that if we talk to the people of Christiania today, they would say that they agree with that. You know, I'd like to keep it that way. And a lot of us would. Another idea was the idea of direct democracy. No one was going to manipulate us in the way that politicians always manipulate people into doing what they want to do. So I think the idea of direct democracy was there at the beginning, mostly symbolized by the Fellesmøde, which was huge in Thylion with the new Samfund. Direct democracy, people talking things through. I think that most people in Christiania today, if asked whether they believed in that, actually I'd say a lot of people in the country, whatever that means, you know, direct democracy, what does that mean? It's really hard to pull off. But again, I think it was a founding principle of Christiania and still is. Hash. The sale of hash in Christiania is a big deal. And I think back in 1971, there was definitely a consensus that selling hash in Christiania was okay. You know, that it's okay to sell hash. And I think that's still true today. I think if you ask people of Christiania if the sale of hash should be allowed, they would say yes. And I think that a good portion of the population of the country might say yes if given a chance. Just on that simple question. How it happens, you know, that's complicated. I come from California. California just legalized the sale of marijuana. So I can, you know, a year ago, I had to have a certificate from a doctor to get hash legally. And it was very easy to get a certificate. I got one from my wife who was really suffering because of hip problems. So I went to the medical marijuana places. There were 3 or 4 of them, you know. It was all good. Now I can just go down to that same place and just, I guess I have to be over 18, but I can get marijuana. I can get brownies. I can get all that stuff. And I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. Criminalizing this drug is not a good idea because it's kind of like, you know, I don't know, little gangsters. Little gangsters. I don't like, and big gangsters, of course, behind them, right? So I think if we ask the people of Christiania today, look, would you prefer if hash were legal in Christiania? I think most people in Christiania would say, I like that idea. And I think that a lot of people in Denmark would be open to that idea. And you could start by saying, look, people can grow their own marijuana in Christiania. You know, that's like maybe a possible starting place. These are just thoughts that I've collected not just from myself, but from talking to mostly my old friends. You know, people who were active in Christiania in the 1970s. Something needs to be done about that. And one of the reasons for that is because so much negative publicity and vibes, energy. I think a policeman was shot outside of Christiania. And I'd be surprised if it were not tied to hash dealing. So I'm just putting out these ideas, not because they're the right ideas, but I would really support Christiania One TV somehow organizing ways in which people can speak, I guess I would call it truth to power, okay? To kind of get back to the roots of what it means to be a free state that has its own voice and has a check on what goes on inside. And I welcome other points of view on this issue, and I hope that hash, along with housing, along with direct democracy, can be talked about and debated. You know, what is this direct democracy? Is there democracy in Christiania? Also, I'd like to, you know, people say we have to be unified in order to fight the outside, you know, like a fist. When inside Christiania, like there are all these fingers. Okay, so I think it would help Christiania to be a little bit more honest and direct about what Christianitters think is best for Christiania, and to debate it, and to find out what people think. You know, to use the word democracy to allow people to express how they feel and then to move on that. You know, power to the people. You know, let the people talk in fellesmødes or whatever way, and make their decisions and then back those positions up from a position of power. Okay, a principle of Christiania, another one, this is number 4 on my list here, is support for diversity, support for inclusiveness. That people from all races, all countries, all religions, poor people who don't have a place to live, they all have a place in Christiania. And if you've got a drug problem and you're trying to get off hard drugs, there's a place for you in Christiania. That's the way it was back in the day, okay? And that's one of the wonderful, wonderful qualities of Christiania, is there's tremendous diversity here. And there is there are a lot of good reasons why young people want to come out to Christiania. They're lined up. I see people with baby carriages, bikes, of all walks of life lining up to come here. And they're coming here because this is a free state. It's a diverse state. It's still welcoming. The world is turning against immigrants all over the world. You can't come in, you can't come in, you can't come in. And here we have this little state in the old town of Christiania that welcomes folks in. I think that's a principle that people, if you ask people in Christiania, they'd say, we believe in that. And there are a lot of people in this country that believe it as well. Okay, Christiania is still relatively bil-free, car-free. That's amazing. The whole city. The whole city is car-free. That's an environmental question. It's a big environmental question now. We have to deal with this fossil fuel stuff. Keep it in the ground. Keep the fuel in the ground. Well, in Christiania, the fuel is kept in the ground. This is a little sidelight, but a lot of amazingly good and creative things have come out of Christiania. One of them is the Christiania bike. And it's one of many. And people have come from Christiania, they've spread all over the country and been starters in various kinds of efforts. So Christiania lives all over the country. Recycling was a reality principle back in the day because we didn't have the money to buy things, okay? We couldn't buy a house. We had to build the house. And we used a lot of recyclable materials, and we still do. We're doing our best, even though the world outside is pushing us all over the place. So there's one more last thing I wanted to bring up, and this is my own thinking here. And that's about the issue of sexism, particularly in the Me Too movement, right? Women are speaking up. And that's an area that Christiania, I don't think, didn't do very well in. There were a lot of men in the beginning, and there are still a lot of men. And it's a question I raise. Where is Christiania as far as sexism concerned? And like one of the groups of people I'm really interested in hearing from, I'll just put it out there, is the mothers of Christiania. The women who have given birth to the hundreds of children that have come out of Christiania. Where are they? Who are they? What's their point of view? I remember back in the day there was something called the Women's Army that organized to control the men in terms of the march in 1976. They were worried that there was going to be some kind of battles with the police. That was a really good thing. And I don't know what happens. Where's the Women's Army in Christiania? And where are those voices? So if I were to start talking to other people from the 70s, I would want to talk to the women who bore the children. Because my sense is that we could use their guidance in terms of finding out what's to happen in the future. what I'm hoping is the beginning of a conversation that other people will consider participating in, and possibly directing themselves to these kinds of questions. You know, where to now, Christiania, in terms of private ownership? Where to, Christiania, in terms of direct democracy? Let's talk about it out in the open and how we can make this better, make it work better. Where to, Christiania, in terms of the future in hash, selling in Christiania? Where do we want Christiania to be 5 years from now? And who's going to do the work to get us there? Each of these subjects sort of, I think, needs a working group and a working discussion. Recycling, you know, maybe we can do more with the environment. You know, because the environment really needs our help. The planet needs our help. And I think that strain is present in Christiania. So, you know, I look forward to a positive future for this home that I love. I'm available in the United States. My email address is Michael, N as in Nancy, Barglow, B-A-R-G-L-O-W, @gmail.com. And I say, hein go often, venner.